Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Anatomy. We got 3 classes left. Hang in there. You are making it. So today, Gametogenesis. Tuesday, menstrual cycles. Thursday, wrapping it all up. Okay? So we are close to being done. You've got this. I've changed location for this afternoon because I'm really sick of sitting at my desk. And you can't really see him, but there's a kitty in the window behind me. So Chester is here. Oh, he's getting down now. Chester got neutered yesterday. It was a real experience for both of us. He's been resting all afternoon, just hanging out. Everything is good. Okay, so gametogenesis. Let's do this. Things that you are responsible for doing today, taking these notes. These notes are very short. It is imperative as you take these notes to draw the pictures, okay? Like, don't just like watch this and write down 2 things and be like, okay, I'm done. Like, draw out what spermatogenesis is and what oogenesis is, okay? Draw the pictures. Second is to watch an Ed puzzle. The Ed puzzle is about 7.5 minutes long. And then third is to do reproductive IP number 2. That reproductive IP number 2 has a lot to do with menstrual cycle and hormones, which we haven't covered in class yet, but it is in the reading that goes with IP number 2, which coincidentally is the same reading as with IP number 1. I'm going to repost it, but if you know where it is on your computer, like, just know that you don't necessarily need to download it a second time because it's the same reading. There are different readings for IPs number 3 and 4, which will be posted next week. Okay, so think about biology. Remember, your regular body cells are called somatic cells. So if you were going to swab my cheek and look at the cells in my cheek, those are known as somatic cells. They're just regular body cells. Sex cells are known as gametes or germ cells. And in a cell, when we're talking about the sets of chromosomes that are in a cell, that is represented by the number N. So, human somatic cells, you have 2 sets of chromosomes, right? You have a chromosome from mom, you have a chromosome from dad. They're together, like they're paired, right? They're sister, like they have the same genetic information, but you have 2 complete sets of chromosomes. So we refer to that as 2N. But in gametes, you only have 1 set of chromosomes. So eggs and sperm, there's only 1 set of genetic information. And that we refer to gametes as haploid or just 1N. Whereas the 2N somatic cells we refer to as diploid. Okay. I am so sorry, you guys. It has been a long day. Okay, so gametogenesis is the production of gametes. Male gametes are called sperm. Female gametes are called ova or eggs. Meiosis. So you're going to want to pause this and draw this, or pull up the PDF of the notes and draw this in your notes. This is essentially has the same steps as mitosis. It's just you're going through it twice. So starting out in interphase, and you go through prophase 1, and the chromosomes find their partner here. So like chromosome 1 finds the other chromosome 1 in the cell, and they line up next to each other, and this is where crossing over can happen. So this is how you get some genetic diversity in a species with sexual selection or sexual reproduction. This is why things do sexual reproduction, because the chromosomes like line up next to each other, and sometimes they do what's called crossing over. And so like this section of DNA, there we go. This section of DNA on one chromosome would switch with this section of DNA on another chromosome, and it's how you end up with more diversity in your gametes. So that's happening at the beginning of meiosis 1. So prophase 1, find their partner, do some crossing over. Metaphase 1, you have those chromosomes lining up along the metaphase plate in the middle of the cell. Anaphase 1, those chromosomes are being pulled apart. And then telophase 1, your new nuclear envelopes are forming. And cytokinesis, you have 2 cells. So right now we got 2 daughter cells from one beginning cell. Oh no, I lost my pointer. Okay, so 1 beginning cell, 2 daughter cells. Moving on to meiosis 2. So they go through interkinesis, which is just like interphase, right? Sometimes doesn't last very long. It's different between males and females. So females will have primary oocytes here. So this is called, in a female, this would be called a primary oocyte. And you're actually born with all of those that you have. And then they undergo meiosis 2. And that's when your egg matures. Okay, so in females, you have like a long pause between meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. In males, you don't have a long pause. Okay, so prophase 2, and this is just like mitosis. So prophase 2, we got our chromosomes hanging out, like becoming chromosomes, coiling up. You've got your nuclear envelope disappearing. Metaphase 2, they line up on the metaphase plate. Anaphase 2, they are pulled apart. Telophase 2, the nuclear envelope reforms. And cytokinesis, you end up with 4 cells total. Okay, so you get 4 daughter cells out of 1 parent cell. Okay, now this is different in spermatogenesis and in oogenesis. Okay, so spermatogenesis, let me move this so you can see the writing. Spermatogenesis is the production of sperm. Here we got a head, a tail. Your sperm don't have a ton of like extra things. So the egg has like everything that a body needs to make a fetus, except for, you know, the extra genetic information that comes from the sperm. The sperm has genetic information and some energy to get to the egg, and that's about it. Okay. Because of this, your mitochondria can be traced down like through your mother's line. And so that is actually one way that they trace like human migration, is they will look at the mitochondria of different like sets of people, and you can like trace back like how long ago they migrated. There's a super fascinating book about it called The 7 Daughters of Eve. It is one of my favorite books. I highly recommend, if you're interested in like genetics at all or like human migration over time, highly recommend 7 Daughters of Eve. Super good book. It's one of those that's like usually at like used bookstores, so apparently everybody must not love it as much as I do. But it's like I see it at used bookstores all the time. So 7 Daughters of Eve, check it out. It's really good. Okay, so spermatogenesis, you start with your primary spermocyte. So it's diploid. It has 2 sets of chromosomes. It undergoes meiosis 1, and you get secondary spermocytes, and those are haploid. And then they undergo meiosis 2, and then you end up with 4 sperm. All are haploid. They're immature until they mature. So it says after spermatogenesis in the seminiferous tubules, the sperm cells mature in the epididymis. Okay, so if I look at this in a testicle and seminiferous tubule. So Seminiferous tubules are here inside of the testicle, and then the epididymis is like at the top, and then that goes out into, like, it'll go into the urethra and then out of the body. But your primordial germ cell, so that's like the stem cell that makes these, you start off with spermatogonium here. So we're starting here, and we have a primary spermacete. So remember, this is 2N, and it undergoes meiosis 1, and you get secondary spermacites, which are 1N, and then meiosis 2, which you get spermatids, which are also 1N, or haploid. And then those mature in the epididymis to actually become sperm. So you can actually see here, moving away from this germ layer, you get different maturing sperm cells. This is a lot like, remember when we looked at skin cells, the higher up you got, the more like mature those cells got. So it's a lot like that here. Okay, so that's spermatogenesis. So remember, not a long time between meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. Now, females. Oogenesis, you're starting with a primary oocyte. It's diploid. You get 2N. It undergoes meiosis 1, and you end up with one secondary oocyte, 1, and then a polar body, which is just a haploid cell that does not become a mature egg. So it's like most of the cell goes, and like in cytokinesis, most of the cytoplasm goes to the secondary oocyte. A little bit will go to the polar body. And then we undergo meiosis 2. You end up with one egg, an ovum, and then 3 more polar bodies. Okay? So this polar body splits in half to make 2 polar bodies. This secondary oocyte splits into an egg and another polar body. So with oogenesis, you end up with 1 egg and 3 polar bodies. Okay? So in an ovary, we're starting out with our primary oocyte, and remember, it undergoes meiosis, and it matures, and it's making polar bodies as it matures, and undergoes meiosis 2, and then it breaks out here, this is ovulation here, as a secondary oocyte, or an egg. I don't love how that calls this a secondary oocyte, because when it breaks out, it's an ovum, it's an egg. And after it breaks out, that follicle in the ovary will develop what's called a corpus luteum, which also secretes hormones, which we'll talk more about next time. All right. There is a ed puzzle to watch. Watch it, answer the questions. Come to office hours if you have questions. Do IP number 2. I miss you all so much. I hope that you are doing well. I will talk to you later.